Hi guys, welcome to the lesson 2 notes. We're talking about factoring with 3 terms today. Yesterday we talked about factoring with 2 terms and 4 terms. And so with 2 terms, you can either use GCF or you can square root. And really that's all you can do. Sometimes it's a combination. So we talked yesterday how you find the GCF here, and let's see, they have a 5 in common, and we're going to take the smallest exponent. So that's going to be an x to the third. And so when I pull out a 5x to the third, I am going to divide the rest, and I just have x left over here. 75 divided by 5, that's 15, so x minus 15, and then those all cancel out. So this would be my final answer. If you use the square root method, we're going to start off 1 is plus, 1 is minus. I'm going to take the square root of the first term, and that's going to become the first term of these. I'm going to take the square root of the second term, and that's going to become the second term of each of those binomials. Okay, and that's it. The only other thing that you'll have is this guy. So I can't take the square root, but I see that it has a GCF of 2. So I'm going to pull out a 2 and divide it. And so I'm left with x squared here and then minus 100 here. But now it becomes like one of these problems because I can take the square root of both of them. So sometimes you have a combo situation. Okay, and so when we do that, we're again going to break it up. Anytime we take the square root, we're going to do 1 plus and 1 minus. So this is going to be x squared becomes x and x. And 100, square root of 100 is 10, becomes 10 and 10. So 2 times x plus 10, 2 times x plus 10 times x minus 10. Okay, let's go down here. I wanted to point out a situation like this because this is a really sneaky snake. This one you can't factor. And there's only one teeny tiny indicator that makes you realize that you can't factor it, and it's this guy right there. So notice that every has to be a minus sign when you're doing the square root. Okay, and the other thing that we talked about yesterday is when you have 4 terms, we're going to factor by grouping, and the first thing you're going to do is split those in half, and I'm going to find the GCF of each side. So let's see, this has a 2x squared in common. And so it's going to look like 2x squared. Let's see, if I divide that out, that's going to be a 6x. When I divide this out, that's going to be a plus 1. Okay, now let's go over here. Notice that first term is a negative, so I'm definitely going to have to factor out a negative. And it looks like they both have a 5 in common. So this is my GCF that I'm going to pull out. Let's see, negative 30 divided by negative 5 is 6x. And then this is plus 1. So don't forget, these will always be the same. So that's going to be our GCF, 6x plus 1. And then what's left over is 2x squared minus 5. And so if I had to multiply these together, it would get me back to my original problem. Okay, so let's go down to sign rules. This isn't something that you have to know. It's just kind of nice to have in your back pocket to help prevent you from making a mistake and not seeing the mistake. Okay, so if I look at this as like the a, like the number in front of the x squared, that's your a, and then the number with the x, that's your b, and this last term is c, we're going to kind of talk about like if it's positive, what happens? If it's negative, what happens? So basically what this means is that if you have 3 terms and this last term is positive right here. So this last term right here is positive. Whenever you factor it, they are both going to be the same sign. So if this guy is a positive, it's going to be positive, positive. But if this guy right here is a negative, it's going to be negative, negative. So what I do is I like to look at the sign right here. And if it's positive, if it's positive, they're both the same sign. So I'm going to look here and say, okay, if this is positive, it's positive, positive, but if this is a negative, it's negative, negative. Your only other alternative is when that last term is negative. So down here, if I had a minus right here, I automatically know that I'm going to have different signs. So again, it's just kind of helpful as you're going through. You can kind of check yourself. It's not something that you have to know by any means. Okay, let's kind of get into the main part of what we're talking today. Okay, so I like to have an example when I'm going through all these steps on how to solve using the AC method. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we always try to look for a GCF. Any problem that we have, that's where we're going to start. So I just noticed that this one has a 2. So I'm going to take a 2 out, and this isn't something that you have to do at the beginning. It just, a lot of times it makes the problem a little bit easier. Okay, and then we're going to make an X, and that's what is going to deal with steps 2 and 3. So what we're going to do is we are going to multiply the first and the last term and just the numbers. I don't care about the variables or anything. And we're going to put that in the top. So that's going to go there. This is our B. That's going to go down here. So that's how we set it up. And then what we're going to do is just kind of like a puzzle. We are going to find two factors of 9, so two things that multiply to 9, but they add to 10. So let's think about this. Factors of 9 are 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. So which one of these is going to multiply to 9, both of those, but add to 10? So that one is the only one that works. So 1 and 9. So again, let's do this one more time. So 1 times 9 is 9. 1 plus 9 is 10. So we know that that works. Okay, so that is this one and this one. It says write the original polynomial with the new b terms. Okay, these have just become our new b terms. So what this means is we're going to take this and replace this middle term with these two right here. So I'm going to come down here. So I'm going to still use this, and I'm going to say 3x squared plus 1x, and where I'm getting is right here, plus 9x right here, and then plus 3. Now, I know that we have that 2 on the outside. I'm going to deal with it later. I'm just kind of ignoring it. But guys, this should kind of look familiar because we did this yesterday. We are going to factor using factor by grouping. So I'm going to ask myself what they have in common. And let's see, over here, it looks like they have an x in common. So I have 3x plus 1. And over here, it looks like they have a 3 in common. I'm going to pull out a 3, and it's going to be 3x plus 1. Okay, and just like we had learned yesterday, we're going to start with what they have in common. So that's 3x plus 1, and then what's left over, x plus 3. X plus 3. And then don't forget, we have this 2 over here, and we're just going to stick it in the middle. And that is how you factor trinomials. It's a lot of work, but with practice, it's not too bad. Okay, let's start with this one right here. So what I want to do is I just want to focus getting it set up. We might not solve the whole thing, and that's okay. Okay, so I am going to multiply these two together and put that on top. And then whatever this is, including the sign, that's going to go on the bottom. So I'm going to have 2 factors of 24. So let's see, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So 2 factors of 24, and it's going to kind of feel like adding together to give me 10. I don't really care about the negative right now. I'll deal with that later. Okay, so let's see. That doesn't add up to 10. That doesn't add up to 10. That doesn't add up to 10, but that does. So 4 and 6. But the problem is we did the, so 4 times 6 is 24, but 4 plus 6 is definitely not negative 10. So what I know is that I need to make these both a negative because a negative times a negative is a positive. But negative 4 plus negative 6, it gives me that negative 10. So that's exactly what I want. Okay, remember, these are special because they're going to become our new middle term. So we're just going to forget about the middle term. So we're going to say 3x squared minus 4x minus 6x plus 8. And then you would do factor by grouping from there. Okay. Let's go ahead and try the second one. So if I could factor to GCF, I would, but I can't. So I'm going to do the x. Negative 10 times 2 is negative 20. And then this, even though it doesn't show us, it's a 1. So I want you to find two factors of negative 20 that add to give you 1. But I'm going to tell you, we're going to have to use different signs. So it's going to feel like subtraction. So in my head, I'm just really focused on which of these pairs subtract to give me 1. That one doesn't, but that one does. So I know it's going to be some form of 4 and 5, but I know that one of them has to be a negative. So let's see, I'm just going to tag the negative with this one and check. So negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. Negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1. So that's exactly what we want. So that's going to become our middle term right here. And so I'm going to say 2w squared minus 4w plus 5w minus 10. And then we are going to take this further. We're going to solve by factor by grouping. So this has, let's see, a 2 and a w in common. And so I'm left with w minus 2 over here. Over here, these have a 5 in common, so I'm left with w minus 2 again. So my answer is going to be what they have in common, w minus 2 times 2w plus 5. Like that. And again, we did not take this one all the way. We just kind of set it up. What I want to talk about this one is notice the negative. That's really jumping out at me. So I know that I'm going to have to factor out a negative, but I'm going to see if there's anything else that I can factor out. Maybe a 2. Let's try a 2. So negative 2. Okay, so if I factor out a negative 2, then I'm going to have 3x squared left over minus 11x plus 6. And I am going to keep that negative 2 till the very, very end. So it looks like that. Okay, so let's do the x method. So 3 times 6, that's 18, and then I have a negative 11. So two factors of 18 that add to give me negative 11. So negative 2 and negative 9. It doesn't matter if you had negative 9 and negative 2 here. Either way works. Okay, so I'm going to say 3x squared. I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use this one up here. Minus 2x minus 9x plus 6. I'm going to draw a line in the middle. Ooh, I didn't want that one. And do factor by grouping. So let's see. They have an x in common. So I'm going to say, let's see, 3x minus 2. And this one has a negative. I don't want that. So I'm going to say negative 3. And this is 3x minus 2. So what do they have in common? 3x minus 2. What's left over? X minus 3. And we already have that negative 2 there, and so this is our final answer. I want to do one more, and I'm going to change the rules a little bit. So all of these we factored, but what if I said, I want you to solve it? So solving, it's going to look like this. It's going to be set equal to 0. So we're going to treat it the same way. We're just going to take it a step further. So the first thing I would do is I would do the x. So let's see, this is going to be 14, and this is going to be 15. So 2 factors of 14 that add to give me 15. So 14 and 1. And that is going to replace my middle term. So these are going to replace that. So 2a squared plus 14a plus 1a plus 7 is equal to 0. I'm going to cut it in half and do the GCF. This is going to be a plus 7. And guys, look at this. I already have what I want. So I'm just going to pull out a 1. We have to pull out something. Okay, so what do they have in common? A plus 7. What's left over? 2a plus 1. So when it is equal to 0, I have to set each piece now equal to 0. So I'm going to cross this out. So I'm going to come over here and say a plus 7 is equal to 0. And then 2a plus 1 is equal to 0. And so when I subtract 7, I get a is equal to negative 7. And here, when I subtract that 1 over and divide by 2, a is equal to negative 1/2. And that is it.